Pokemon just announced a new expansion for TCG Pocket called Space-Time
Smackdown.
We're gonna rank which cards from Mythical Island and Genetic Apex will be most likely to have a cross-gen evolution in Space-Time Smackdown. Leave a like on this video if you want to see more Pokemon TCG streams on this channel. So let's explain the tiers first. In the top form we have EX. I suspect these Pokemon will not only be in the game, but will also have an EX retrain available for their evolution. The next tier is Vanilla. These cards I do think are still getting evolutions, but I think they won't have any EX variants. The next tier is Energy Retrain. These are the evolutions that I think are possible if the initial basic Pokemon gets a retrain to better match the energy of the next Pokemon. And then we have two new. I wanted to include every Pokemon in the game so far. And based on what we've already seen, some Pokemon just have two new evolutions. I don't think they make the cutoff. Then we have our candidates tier. These are obviously all the Pokemon that we will be ranking. And the secret tier is the region locked tier. Consider it an honorable mention tier. These are Pokemon that have convergent evolutions or regional variants, and I just wanted to acknowledge them. I want to start with a Pokemon that was already confirmed in the trailer to have a cross evolution. Leafeon is available in the trailer, plain as day for everyone to see. I think whether this was going to be a Johto expansion pack or a Gen 4 like it ended up being, we were always going to get a new evolution. So to represent the Eevees, I'm putting Vaporeon in the vanilla tier. We're obviously getting Leafeon. I could see them adding Glaceon, but it will be interesting to see how they differentiate it from Vaporeon as far as water type evolutions go. Next on the list is Bisharp. Bisharp actually got an evolution in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet called King Gambit. But since we don't have any Gen 9 Pokemon in the game as far as I know, I'm gonna have to put Bisharp in two new. Next on our list is Chansey. Now I want to say right now, I don't think any baby Pokemon are being added to this game at all, which is your explanation for why Mr. Mime and Jinx are not on this list. Chansey does have a baby evolution that was introduced in Generation 4. However, there is also Blissey that was introduced in Generation 2. I could see Blissey needing to take 4 or 5 energy to attack even. So while it is technically possible, I'm definitely leaving Blissey all the way at the end of the vanilla tier. Next up is Electabuzz, who also received a baby, but we're not going to talk about the baby. We're only focused on Electivire, the Gen 4 cross evolution. Electabuzz honestly is one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video in the first place, because Electivire would be such a crazy Pokemon to have in this game. The main reason I think Electabuzz is going to get an evolution, even before the trailer came out, is because there's two different versions of Electabuzz that do two different things from Mythical Island and Genetic Apex. To me, that seems like it's giving your players the choice of which Electabuzz they would like to run and their evolution to Electivire. And because of the reverence that Pokemon fans have for Gen 4, I could see him getting an EX. I'm not gonna lie. Next on our list is Golbat, the pre-evolution for the Gen 2 Pokemon Crobat. Before, if you had asked me if this was a Johto expansion, I would say it's possible. Maybe even EX possible. But at this point, I still think it is possible. But I would just put him as a vanilla Pokemon. I don't see them giving him the EX treatment until we get a specific Johto expansion pack. I don't see the harm in adding Crobat as a Stage 3 colorless attacker as power creep continues to increase. Next up is Hitmontop. I'm using Hitmonlee as a stand-in because he's the most popular of the Hitmons so far. I don't think Hitmontop is specifically being added into the next expansion. It is technically possible, but because this is more Gen 4 focused, I'm going to have to rename one of my tiers and slap him into two new / not likely tier.
Since the trailer released, this Lucario card art was revealed showing Hitmontop, which is likely evidence that a Hitmontop card will be added in Space-Time Smackdown, since we rarely see Pokemon featured in TCG Pocket that are not in the game.
Next on our list, will Lickitung evolve into Licky? It's possible. I'll put him in vanilla ahead of Chansey because Chansey is specifically a Generation 2 evolution. Licky is at least a Gen 4 evolution. Next up is Magmar, and just like with Electabuzz, us having two different ways to use this guy, he's definitely getting an EX. Magneton is the next Pokemon on our list that was also gifted an evolution with Generation 4. So while I definitely think Magneton is coming, I do have to wonder, which element of Magneton will they be leaning into? Magneton only needs one electric energy to attack, and it can get that from the energy pile on its own. If Magnezone comes out as a member of the Metal family, I could see him getting an energy retrade. I do think it's possible. I think Magneton is definitely coming. How that will be, we shall see. Next up is Onix, and Onix is another Pokemon that you also have to wonder, will they be focusing on the metal element, or will they be focusing on the ground type element? an energy retrain if Steelix is ever going to be added to the game. It literally gains the Steel type. That's Steelix's whole thing. It literally gains the Steel type. Next up is Poliwrath, or should I say Politoed. I actually don't even have a Poliwrath card, so we're just going to have to look at Whirl. Poliwrath is in a similar situation as Crobat, but Politoed is a split evolution, and the game already has plenty of water types. So for me,
Politoed
is not very likely. Next we have Porygon, who not only has a Johto evolution, but also a Sinnoh evolution? That's right. He got an evolution for Porygon 2 in Generation 2 and Porygon Z in Generation 4. And if I'm really being honest with myself, I could definitely see a Porygon Z EX. That would be insane for colorless decks, as well as incredibly splashable. Next up is Primeape, who evolves into Annihilape, an evolution that was introduced in Scarlet and Violet, just like King Gambit. But since there is a clear lack of Gen 9 Pokemon in the game, he's gonna have to go into the 2 new tier. Next on our list, we have Rhydon, who is gifted a Gen 4 evolution into Rhyperior. Now we have an interesting conundrum. The Rhydon line is not very good. I do think there's a bit of a triad going on between iconic Gen 4 evolutions with Magmortar, Electivire, and Rhyperior. So on a pure speculation basis, I could potentially see a Rhyperior EX. It would be some incredible EX coverage for the fighting type decks, and you know he would be a brick wall. Next on our list is Scizor, who has 2 cross evolutions between 2 different generations. However, look at that. Do you see that on Scizor? That lone green energy? If anything is ever going to happen to Scizor, it would definitely need a colorless retrain, so that way you could run him in a metal type deck. Next on our list is Seadra, who got a Gen 2 evolution in Kingdra. I think it's possible, but not in this set. If this was a Gen 2 set, I could definitely see us not only getting a Kingdra, but also Claire support. Since Seadra is a water type, I don't see them taking the time to add too many more. Next we have Slowpoke, who evolves into Slowbro in Generation 1, and gains the evolution Slowking in Generation 2, which makes it another Johto region specific. And with Slowking and Slowbro sharing the same type, I really don't see the need for them to add Slowking, so he's going in the not likely tier. Next up we have Tangela, who evolves into Tangrowth in Generation 4. You know what that means. I think it's very likely. I think honestly it's one of the most likely Pokemon to get an evolution, just off of the fact that the Tangela card is so bad. I mean, there's no way they just thought they were gonna leave Tangela like this. You can look at this card and tell clearly there's gotta be more to this, but Tangrowth could mean Tangela could see some usage. And Tangrowth is already extremely underrated, so I think Tangrowth is definitely being added to the game. I just don't think it's iconic enough for it to have an EX card.
That reminds me, Gloom evolves into Blossom in Gen 2, but I doubt we will see it added to the next expansion.
So this is my tier list. What do you guys think? Did I miss any Pokemon? Do you guys feel like I rated the Pokemon properly? Are there any Pokemon you think that should have an EX that shouldn't? Let me know down in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video. Peace!